and life. Let us submit ourselves and pray. Barak More. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts and sins, as we have forgiven our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
For wisdom in its shadow is as the shadow of silver, but the abundance of the knowledge of wisdom will give life to him who has it. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verses 12. Good evening, everyone. It gives me immense joy to welcome you all to the third episode of the Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios study series, an initiative taken by the MGOCSM study wing. Your kind reception of our first and second episode has motivated us to come up with yet another knowledge-filled session. On behalf of MGOCSM Delhi Diocese, I take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed resource person for the evening, Reverend Father Anish Peter John. I also extend a hearty welcome to all our diverse panelists. Basil Sajan Varghese from St. Mary's Orthodox Cathedral, Hauz, Alcina Mary Abraham from St. James Orthodox Church, Mayur, Vihar, Phase 3, and Alan George from St. Thomas Orthodox Church, Jaipur. I, Miss Ananya Elizabeth Varghese, along with Miss Febha Mariam Panicker, will be the moderators for the evening. The theme for today's episode is Are God and Man One or Two? Reflections on the Secular Temptation. Tirumeni in his writing beautifully shares his understanding about the inseparable unity between God and man and comprehends about the existence of humanity as an inseparable element of God. The link for Tirumeni's article has been put in the YouTube description box for all the viewers to access it. It gives me immense joy to share that the resource person for the evening is Reverend Father Anish Peter John, Vicar of St. Thomas Indian Orthodox Church, Dublin, Ireland. Achin is also a doctoral student at St. Patrick's College, Maynooth University, Ireland. Achin is a member of our own Delhi Diocese, and Achin's home parish is St. Stephen's Orthodox Church, Dilshad Garden. I would now like to invite Anish Achin to take over and introduce our theme, Are God and Man One or Two? To our panelists and viewers. Over to you, Acha.
Thank you, Ananya, for that lovely introduction. I think you have done almost a good part of study from the article, actually. Thank you, all the organizers, especially Sajan and the MGOCSM Central Committee members for giving me this opportunity and inviting me to deliver a kind of a talk, probably kind of a study talk in the series. I'm a little conscious and afraid because I'm going to speak about such a giant, and I'm going to delve into the theology which has been discussed all over the world, and probably most of us are students of Tirumeni in some way or the other. Although in our lifetime we haven't spent a good, probably a great amount of time with interacting with Tirumeni directly. We just have, most of us, like me and other Achins, Probably the elder senior priests would remember Tirumeni more, and they had the chance of having interactions with Tirumeni. But for us youngsters, we just remember Tirumeni coming to our Palli Perunals and listening to his prasangams, or probably listening to him getting angry at some occasion while he was not well. അപ്പോൾ തിരുമേനിയെ പറ്റി സംസാരിക്കുക, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തിരുമേനി എഴുതിയ ഒരു ലേഖനം, ഒരു ആർട്ടിക്കിൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുക അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഷെയർ ചെയ്യുക എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ it's a very big task, a Herculean task. But I'll trust in God, and I'll try to do some part of justice, some kind of justice to the work that Tirumeni has narrated through this article. The title of the article is very interesting, and it is a question, dear friends. The title says, "Are God and man one or two?" Okay, so it's a question to all of us. നമ്മൾ എല്ലാവരോടും ഒരു question ചോദിക്കുകയാണ്. Are God and man, the two entities, ഇത് രണ്ടും ഒന്നാണോ അതോ രണ്ടാണോ എന്ന ചോദ്യം. So we have to kind of find out answer after reading this article. That's what the article suggests, or rather, it is kind of building up the background for us to understand whether God and man are human being are one or two. So let's begin with this. I have jotted down some points where I would not be discussing the theological jargons as such, because I know my audience is a young audience and probably not theologically literate in some sense. You need not be. പക്ഷേ ഒരു ജനറൽ സെൻസിൽ മാത്രം ഇത് ഈ കാര്യങ്ങളൊന്ന് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യാനും, ആൻഡ് if at all you want me to delve into something a little more heavy, we can do that, but I'm not very good at it. So now I was reading an article, a newspaper article which just appeared recently, August 31st appeared an article in Irish Times, okay, which is a news daily here. So the title of the article was, "Secularism cannot be blamed for all the ills of the world." Okay, secularism cannot be blamed for all the ills of the world. ഈ ലോകത്ത് സംഭവിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാ തെറ്റുകൾക്കും എല്ലാ കുറവുകൾക്കും സെക്യുലറിസത്തെ ബ്ലെയിം ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ടൈറ്റിൽ ആണ് ആർട്ടിക്കിൾ. August 31st എന്നാണ് ഓർത്തോണം. I don't know whether they knew that there would be a discussion, a study series of Paulos Gregorios Tirumeni with a similar title. Tirumeni is going to probably criticize, Tirumeniyude ഒരു critical viewpoint ആണ് secularism പറ്റി. ഇവിടെ ടൈറ്റിൽ പറയുന്ന secularism cannot be blamed for all the ills of the world. And the subtitle says, "Many millions who are not religious have admirable human and moral values." Okay, many millions who are not religious have admirable human and moral values. Anyways, we'll set this aside. We'll come to the article. Due to the limitation of the time, I wouldn't give a lot of preface. The article that Tirumeni has written, which is titled "Are God and Man One or Two?" seems to be a very clear kind of explanation of what we believe. Okay, it is a very clear explanation of what Orthodox Church believes, or what our faith is, or rather Christian faith. Okay, and it is not just being a criticism of secularization. It's not just a criticism of secularization, which Tirumeni does. I will, as I said in the beginning, that I'll try to avoid some theological jargons as much as possible. Okay, and I'll try to bring it into the context of our lives. Okay, at the outset, you have to remember that this article, when you most of you whom I see on the screen might have read this article once or twice. Okay, it is a dialectical kind of a theological, a conversation that is going on. It's a dialectical kind of thing. Okay, we often see a dialectical between light and darkness in our life. നമ്മുടെ ലൈഫിൽ തന്നെ നമ്മൾ സാധാരണ ഡെയിലി ലൈഫിൽ കാണുന്ന ഹ്യൂമനും ഗോഡും തമ്മിലുള്ള, okay, with a hyphen. Okay, it's not human God, it is a human hyphen God. പിന്നെ nature and grace, right? Natural and supernatural. Okay, what is natural, what is supernatural? ഈ dialectic എപ്പോഴും tension, life, wherever we are located, whether it is Delhi or in Dublin, we all undergo this kind of dialectic. Okay, ഇതിന്റെ ഇടയ്ക്ക് നമ്മൾ ഓസിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാണ് ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞാൽ, അങ്ങോട്ടും ഇങ്ങോട്ടും എക്സ്ട്രീംസിലേക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ ഓസിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. നമ്മുടെ ക്ലോക്കിന് ചെയ്യുന്ന പോലെ അല്ലെ, ക്ലോക്കിന്റെ പെൻഡലും ഓസിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന പോലെ. വി കീപ് ഓൺ ഡൂയിങ് ദിസ്, ഗുഡ് ബാഡ് എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്ന പോലെ എല്ലാം ഇതിന്റെ ഇടയ്ക്ക് നമ്മളിങ്ങനെ ഓസിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. So here Tirumeni has a subtitle also to the article which says it's reflection to the secular temptation. So you get some kind of idea when you move into the article. Okay, Paulos Mar Gregorios Tirumeni sets the tone and context for the narrative, which he's going to explain by writing in the beginning of the article that the question is important for those who want to maintain their faith in God. Okay, the question that the title says, title or a question, are God and man one or two? And the question is important for those who want to maintain their faith in God, to see Him more and more clearly identified with the process of history and with the destiny of man. Right? So he sets the tone actually in the beginning. For whom does this question remain pertinent or important? So it is for people who believe in God, definitely faith in God, and they want to see Him more and clearly identified with the process of history. All right. There are two basic paradigms that Tirumeni speaks about. That is God and world. Okay, God and world relation. In this article, if you are looking through the piece, there are two poles of Western thought which he speaks. Again, sorry for using all these names. Many of these names, ഞാനും പഠിച്ചാലേ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയാലേ അറിയത്തുള്ളൂ. അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒത്തിരി philosophers, early philosophy, theologians, എല്ലാവരും തിരുമേനിയുടെ vast knowledge, and he is using all of them. Spinozan paradigm ഒന്ന് പറയുന്നുണ്ട്, okay, which says where God's substance is the world. Okay, so God's substance is there in the world and the world is God എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഒരു കോൺസെപ്റ്റ്, ഒരു പോള്. The other extreme, okay, poles എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ രണ്ട് എക്സ്ട്രീം ആണ്, അത് ഓർത്തോണം. The second extreme is the Augustinian, which is from the Catholic Church, we all know, or Kierkegaardian or Barthian. Okay, Barthian, Karl Barthian tradition, ഈ ട്രഡീഷൻസിൽ നിൽക്കുന്ന ഒരു അടുത്ത എക്സ്ട്രീം ആണ്, which makes God and world so totally other mutually that God shares in none of the characteristics of the world. Okay, so it takes God out, totally God, and world where nilkunnu ennu parayum. Nothing in the world can, in this view, be divine. That's what the other position is. Okay, the second position parayunnathu, nothing in this world can be divine. Then the world is even not necessary for God to God. Okay, that's what Tirumeni writes. Not to say that it cannot be His being or His body. So even world is not required for God's existence. എന്ന് പറയുന്ന രണ്ട് ദൈവത്തെ ഒരു എക്സ്ട്രീമിലേക്കും വേൾഡിനെ വേറൊരു എക്സ്ട്രീമിലേക്കും കാണുന്നതായ ഒരു കാഴ്ചപ്പാട്. However, Gregorios Tirumeni, again going forward, he puts a third paradigm also, which is called the secondary cause. Okay, secondary autonomy of man എന്ന് പറയുന്ന Tirumeni just passingly പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. This means that while he always owes his being to God, human being owes his being to God, okay, as the first cause. ദൈവമാണ് ഫസ്റ്റ് കോസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന നിൽക്കുന്നതെങ്കിലും he can now exist in himself. ഒരു ഓട്ടോണമി ഉണ്ട് ഹ്യൂമൻ ബീയിങ്ങിന് വേറെ ആയിട്ട് നിലനിൽക്കുന്നു എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ സെക്കൻഡറി കോസ് ആയി അല്ലെ, ഫസ്റ്റ് കോസ് ഇസ് ഗോഡ് ആൻഡ് സെക്കൻഡറി കോസ് ആയിട്ട് അങ്ങനെ ഒരു എക്സ്പ്ലനേഷനും തിരുമേനി ഒരു തേർഡ് പാരഡൈമും കൂടി അതിനകത്ത് നൽകുന്നുണ്ട് in the beginning. So what does this paper exactly do in this article? Tirumeni now takes up the readers into a different world, okay, which is called the ancient patristic world. Okay, patristic theology introduced Tirumeni to the audience or to the readers, okay, which he says he writes precisely that this paper takes the position that the ancient Eastern patristic God apprehensions remains still valid, all right, whenever he is writing, with some minor changes, even after the Western crisis of secularization and rationalism. Okay, ഇതിന്റെ ക്രൈസിസ് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടും ഇപ്പോഴും ഇത് നിലനിൽക്കുന്നു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാണ് തിരുമേനി തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. Eastern patristic style of making no absolute statement about God. Okay, or the apophatic theology. Apophatic theology, introduce he's making his readers known about this fact. Okay, now Tirumeni begins with 6 propositions. Okay, he has 6 propositions laid out there, which may have some value in relating to the truth. Okay, to the truth. Relate a proposition. Absolute statements. Okay, he's keeping away from all those things. The first one he says is God's isness is different. Okay, God's isness is different. Avada Tirumeni tries to explain, that the creator and creation are not interdependent. The dependence is only one way, he writes precisely. Okay, it's only one way. Creator creation dependence, but rather creation has a dependence towards God. There is only one way, kind of thing. Okay, but he criticizes and says that the modern theists, they do not give attention to this 2 kind of isness. Okay, 2 kind of isness. Some things that could be said of the isness of God, he writes, is that it is incomprehensible to know God. Okay, or the ousia of God, or the essence of God. ദൈവത്തിന്റെ സത്ത മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ദൈവം എന്താണെന്ന് എസൻസിൽ നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ സാധിക്കത്തില്ല എന്ന് ഈസ്റ്റേൺ പെട്രിസ്റ്റിക്സിന്റെ വളരെ വളരെ ബേസിസ് he is describing here. Okay, when he describes in page number 21, he clearly describes. He writes, to comprehend God is usually to see a reality as sharing certain properties with a class or species. Or group class or species relate try or understanding a thing in relation to its interactions. Okay, interactions which are predictable to a large extent. Okay, പക്ഷെ ദൈവത്തിന്റെ ousia or the essence, it's a Greek term, or again you know it well. അപ്പോൾ ആ term അതിനെ ആ എസൻസിനെ മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ സാധ്യതയില്ല. It is incomprehensible എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. Dazzling light എന്നൊക്കെ ഡിസ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യാറുണ്ട്. Okay, there is a light which is dazzling, ഭയങ്കര വെളിച്ചമാണ്, which is dazzling. നമുക്ക് കാണത്തില്ല, കാണാൻ പറ്റാത്ത രീതിയില്ല. മോസസിന്റെ നമുക്കറിയാം സ്റ്റോറി, we read about his ascent into Mount Sinai. അല്ലേ, മൗണ്ട് സൈനായിലേക്ക് പോകുമ്പോഴും അതേ ഒരു പ്രൊപ്പോസിഷൻ, അതേ ഒരു തീമാണ് ഇവിടെയും മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. when we speak about incomprehensibility of God. Also, dear friends, it is important to remember that Tirumeni kind of anchored his theology on Gregory of Nyssa. All right, so Cappadocian Father Gregory of Nyssa writings in Ella, they all, most of the Eastern Patristic Church fathers speak about this incomprehensibility of God. Upon there is a question, then why are we studying theology, or why are we trying to know God? And it's an attempt from human being. Okay, it's an attempt from human being, but we essentially understand and know at the end that we cannot know God completely. Incomprehensible ആണ് God. ദൈവത്തെ മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ പൂർണ്ണമായിട്ട് നമുക്ക് സാധിക്കത്തില്ല എന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് അറിയുന്നത്. Second proposition Tirumeni puts forward is God's actions or operations do come down to us. Okay, that we can know God through his energia. All right, energiയായി കൂടി നമുക്ക് ദൈവത്തെ അറിയാം, ഓപ്പറേഷൻസിൽ കൂടി എന്നാ പറയുന്നത്. Like he gives an example also. I don't know whether it might be very apt for a rational mind. റെയിനെ പറ്റി തിരുമേനി പറയുന്നുണ്ട്, മഴയെ പറ്റി അല്ലെ. മഴയുടെ എസൻസിനെ ഒന്നും മനസ്സിലാക്കിയിട്ടല്ല നമ്മൾ അറിയുന്നത്, ബട്ട് വി റിസീവ് ദ റെയിൻ അല്ലെ. റിസീവ്, അതിന്റെ വർക്കിംഗ് നമുക്കറിയാം, എങ്ങനെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നു അറിയാം, സയൻസ് അറിയാം ഇച്ചിരിയൊക്കെ, പക്ഷെ അത് റിസീവിംഗിൽ കൂടി നമ്മൾ കൂടുതൽ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയാണ്, വി അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ് ഇറ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഫ്രം ഗോഡ്സ് ഓപ്പറേഷൻ, Tirumeni puts it very, very clearly that from God's operation we get a faint glimmer of God's ousia. Okay, it is not a clear picture, but a faint glimmer of God's ousia. ദൈവത്തിന്റെ സത്തയെ പറ്റി, ousiaയെ പറ്റി, എസൻസിനെ പറ്റി we just get a faint picture of it. Okay, വളരെ ഫീബിൾ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഐഡിയ ആണ് നമുക്ക് കിട്ടുന്നതെന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. മൂന്നാമത്തത്, third proposition is God and world cannot be ultimately two. Okay, ദൈവവും ലോകവും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഭൂമി എന്ന് പറയുന്ന, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ നേച്ചർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, it cannot be ultimately two. Okay, it has to be one. he anchors this again into Indian philosopher Shankara. Shankara philosophy, Advaita philosophy, Advaita, not two. Okay, Advaita, and not two in the Varana. But Randalla in the Varana. That's an apophatic way to put forward things, He's not saying that it is one, rather it is not two in the Varana. Did you understand? Anchoring he puts it forward, he puts his theology, relates it to philosophy, Indian philosophy also, Advaita. The fourth one is the patristic notions of diastema and metousia. Okay, metousia and diastema in the Greek concept. Diastema, to put in a very brief sense, it means the gap. Okay, the interval in the between creator and creation. Metousia and the connections, okay? To put it in a very simple sense. Now, fifth one, I'm just running through this because I want to sum up things also within the stipulated time. So, fifth one is humanity inseparably united with God. Humanity, which is inseparably united with God. Proposition. Paulos Mar Gregorios criticizes the overemphasis on the distinction between God and man. Okay, the overemphasis actually. So distinction exists, but it cannot be overemphasized as two different realities. Two different realities are Devo, Manishir. And the extreme pole he writes this again. The only humanity that can be affirmed as really existing is humanity inseparably united with God. Okay? The only humanity that can be affirmed as really existing is humanity inseparably united with God. Devathuvayitte chernu nilkunna humanity matramana namakku affirm the real existing humanity. Okay. Here, interestingly, Paulos Mar Gregorios shifts his paradigm, his conversation, narrative movie. He takes it away from the shackles of Christian exclusivity. Christian exclusivism, exclusivity, he takes it into interreligious dialogue, okay, and sensitivity towards other religion. Movie. Okay, so he very interestingly takes it away from just keeping it into Christian confines. Movie. So he says, contextually, it is useful for engaging, for talks against religious fundamentalism, because that's one of the great the evil of these days. Okay. Religious fundamentalism. Against engage, it is very productive where we say, but all of humanity, Christ, Christu, Asneham and the Christu Rekshikin, humanity, and the Varena, or level like when he takes it away. He writes about specificity of Christian from his own personal conviction. Okay, he writes it very clearly from his own conviction, where he is not narrating all the theology, all the luggage that is carrying in his head. He is not speaking like that. He writes very precisely from his conviction. I'll read from his words. I regard the main specificity of Christian not as the exclusive possession of this redeemed humanity. Okay, it's not an exclusive possession of Christians, which is now inseparably united with God in Christ. For me, Tirumeni says, what makes me a Christian is my initiation into a community which knows the heart of this redeemed humanity. Okay, I am initiated into a community which knows the heart of the redeemed humanity. Redeemed humanity, അതിന്റെ ഹാർട്ടാണ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതിന്റെ കാതലായ കാര്യങ്ങൾ അറിയാവുന്ന ഒരു കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയിലേക്ക് ഐ ഹാവ് ബീൻ ഇനിഷ്യേറ്റഡ്. അതാണ് എന്റെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് അല്ലെ, എന്റെ ക്രിസ്ത്യാനിറ്റിയുടെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ്. ആൻഡ് സീക്സ് ടു ലിവ് ബൈ ദാറ്റ് നോളജ് and to impart it to all by life, love, and word. Okay, life, by love, and word. ഇത് മൂന്ന് വിധത്തിൽ കൂടി ഇത് ഇമ്പാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാണ് എല്ലാവരിലേക്കും. അതാണ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ് തിരുമേനി പറയുന്നത്. ഓക്കെ, rather than exclusivity. Again, for PMG or Paulos Gregorios ceremony, the main point is not about specificity of the Christian world or Christian religion, but about the dialectical, unconfused, inseparable unity between man and God. Okay, not merely in the single individuality of Nazarene, he says, but in the whole humanity which he assumed. ഹ്യൂമാനിറ്റിയിലേക്ക് മുഴുവനും ഇറങ്ങി ചെല്ലുന്ന ദൈവത്വത്തെ പറ്റിയാണ് തിരുമേനി അവിടെ സംസാരിക്കുന്നത്. Then he also points out in a single sentence, a small sentence, God and man are not totally other. Okay, if you are looking for answer to the title of the article, the answer lies here in some way. God and man are not totally other. Okay, not totally other. Sixth one, incarnation of the Son of God and its trans-temporal effect upon all humanity. Okay, in space and time. It's narrated in page 25. Tirumeni he put forward 5 points actually. I don't know whether there'll be enough time to read through all those 5 points. I'll skip. Okay, those 5 points that he has narrated under 6th proposition. Well, it is speaking about truth manifest as God incarnate. Okay, Christian tradition offers as the way shown by Son of God, but there are ways of being related to the incarnation. So it's low. It says it is more open, as we said. There are different ways of understanding. He says there is elements of Christian tradition which are better maintained in traditions like Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism. Okay. Marxism within earth, okay. Christians have to learn from these and a suggestion that they put forward in there. So it's kind of a dialogue or a platform for dialogue which he opens up in this point. Then he points out in the 5th sub-point, he says diastema between God and man remains a fact, but it has been ultimately overcome by God becoming man. Deva manushanayitirunnappol aa diastema allengil aa gap has been overcome largely. I think I'm almost there with my time. So let me close this with a phrase from Gandhiji writes this thing in his autobiography, The Story of My Experiments with Truth. When he says, Gandhi says that those who say that religion has nothing to do with politics do not know what religion means. Okay. Those who say that religion has nothing to do with politics do not know what religion means, he says. So let me pause it here because I know the conversation goes forward. I might have to speak for some more time explaining the questions and trying to answer the questions actually. So let me pause and thank you so much for this lovely evening.
Thank you so much, Acha, for putting forward the thoughts of Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios Tirumeni in such a way that we all could relate with, and also you simplified his thoughts so much for us that now if we read the article once again, we'll be able to understand it in a much better way. Thank you so much, Acha. Over to you, Febha.
So as my co-moderator already said, we're really lucky to have a resource person with us who was able to highlight the article so well. And as we are progressing through each session, we're also seeing that every article is also progressing in terms of difficulty, and having someone explain the article so well to us is really enlightening, and we are really thankful to you, Acha, for that. And we youngsters are really, really lucky to have people who can take out time and then explain these articles to us, which actually hold so much value even today. Like, even though they've been written long time back, they still hold value to us. And when we're trying to connect with these articles now, we're really happy that we have good resource people who are helping us out with that. The floor is now open for our panel discussion like we have every time, and our panelists will be putting up their questions, and the viewers who are watching this live on YouTube are also free to send in their questions via the comment box. Okay, so we'll be beginning with our very first panelist. We have Basil Sajan Varghese with his question.
Thank you, Acha, for explaining Tirumeni's words so concisely and beautifully. Acha, my first question is about Paulos Mar Gregorios Tirmeni saying in second point proposition about the ousia and the essence and the energia, the property or the actions of God. So we can't really comprehend the ousia. So what we really, as you mentioned, what we really do is understand ousia through the energia. So within this limitationality of human beings, if we look into the Holy Trinity and the three persons of Holy Trinity, we know that the three persons are homoousios. That is of same essence. So can we say that, is it right to say that the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are just the energia of God, of the ousia of God, manifested energia of the ousia of God?
Mm, first of all, Basil, I doubt whether this question will be out of the context of this article actually, because it's more of a theological, systematic theological question to answer. I feel it is better for me, like I was here listening to K.M. George recently in one of the interactions. Tirumeni Achan said that vortex uണ്ടല്ലോ ചുഴി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് വെള്ളത്തിന്റെ അല്ലേ, അതിന്റെ you go to vortex ന്റെ അകത്ത് പെട്ടുപോകും. So you don't, if you start speaking about this, you go deep into the vortex. I'll keep my comments very limited actually. The essence that Paulos Gregorios Tirumeni talks about and the energia that Tirumeni speaks about is based on the context of human and God relationship. Okay, it is not the Trinitarian relationship that is being discussed here at all. So assigning that's a whole different topic, different area actually. Trinitarian theology another. അപ്പോൾ അതിന്റെ എസെൻസോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ ഷെയറിങ്ങോ ആ തൃത്വത്തിന്റെ എസെൻസോ അല്ല ഇവിടെ പറയുന്നത്. It is definitely not. So it's not the energy that we are speaking about within the Trinity that will be applied to the human context when we have that relationship. It's all because it's a different area. I would suggest if we can take it into a different background and discuss it. Yeah. Otherwise, it will be confusing.
Thank you so much, Acha. Thank you, Basil, for putting up the question. I'm sure you can later get on personally with Acha, get in touch with him, and then solve your query. Right. And next we have our panelist, Alcina Mary Abraham, and please put up your question, Alcina.
Thank you, Acha, for simplifying such a difficult article. Acha, my question was, in the article, Tirumeni has written that God is existent like any other existent, but unattainable. Like, how can we interpret this in the human-God relation? How can we interpret this? If he's existent, then why is he unattainable?
Will you narrate from where have you taken that point? Because
Acha, from
is that from article?
Acha, I don't remember this, but it is from the second page, I guess.
Right. Come again. Did you say attainable?
He's unattainable. He's existent like any other existent, but unattainable.
Yeah. So your question would be then, how can we
interpret
I think she means that how is it that he is unattainable? If he is existing, then how is it that we cannot attain him? Is that what you're trying to say, Alcina?
Yes.
First of all, I don't see anywhere in the article where Tirumeni says the existence of God is similar to the human existence. Okay, അതുകൊണ്ട് ഫസ്റ്റ് കോസ് എന്നൊക്കെ ഫിലോസഫിയിൽ പറയുന്ന തിരുമേനി വാക്കുകൾ യൂസ് ചെയ്യണം, മനസ്സിലായോ? Who is uncreated being. Okay, is an uncreated being. So existence in the sense a created being ആയിട്ടുള്ളതാണെങ്കിൽ that's human beings, right? Uncreated being ആണ് ഗോഡിന്റെ എക്സിസ്റ്റൻസിനെ പറ്റി പറയുന്നത്. It's not a created existence. It is similar about the sun second person in Trinity. Sunne patti nammal parayumbol adha paraya. The uncreated being enna parayana, alle? In our even our Vishwasa Pramana in Nicene Creed, we speak like that. So it's not it's never understood as a created being existence. Okay, created existence in the karyamalla parayana. That's what Tirumeni is very clear about it. He wouldn't narrate. I don't think he would write something like that where he says that clearly existent being aananna. Anganeyalla, but is an uncreated being, and we are the created beings, or humanity or the creation is the secondary cause. Angane manasilakan pattutullu devate. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Alcina. Thank you, Achar, for those for that answer. Now we have Alan George, our panelist, who will be putting up his question.
Thank you, Acha. The session was really good. So, Acha, my question is regarding the fifth proposition that Tirumeni has made in this article. As Tirumeni has said that humanity is inseparably united with God, and he also mentioned up at the end of the article that humanity does not exist outside of union with God, and God does not exist outside of the union with humanity. So, Acha, my question is that whenever we talk about the second coming of Christ, we often say that he will be coming, and we don't know the particular time that when he might be coming. So if we have such a nice union with God, where like God does not exist outside the union with humanity, then why aren't we knowing this? Also, does this show that there is some limitation to this union, particularly regarding to the second coming of Christ?
Great. Okay. That question essentially means that if we are divine, and if we have divinity within ourselves, aren't we part of God, and then we should be super natural kind of So, Alan, for that, the understanding in Orthodox theology is that we have been introduced or initiated into this divine life. Okay, we have that potential within us. Okay, if you want to use a term, potential to grow in God. Okay, towards God doesn't mean by default we are one with God. We are going to speak of ourselves as Jesus Christ. Divine and human. Divine and human so our attain position, but we have a potential to grow in Christ. We have a potential, like, for example, if you say, if I ask you, Alan, if somebody asks me, actually, do you know how to play basketball? I would say, yeah, I'm good at it, because I have done some basketball at school level. But when I really come to play, there is a level of knowing things also, isn't it? There is a level of knowing how to play basketball also. I can be good at it, I know it. Okay, but to grow in it is different. To reach and say ultimately that I am perfect, different. So it's a impetus that you have, or you have a potential within yourself as human beings of the divine. Okay, divinity of a potential humanity, and we are growing towards that. Our potential accept during our worship also. Even Indian tradition, Indian philosophical traditions, you might know, Tattvamasi, thou art the person. Saying namaste, greeting in Indian philosophy, Indian religion, namaste, saying namaste, is seeing goodness or God content, so-called thing, divine in the other being. But it doesn't mean that you are full in that fledged, and we will try to interpret things. We'll have visions about it's a stage, as I said about football or knowing a game. If you ask me, yes, I know. It's a step-by-step furtherance progress which is required towards that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for that well-worded question. And now we have one question from our YouTube viewer, Mrs. Varghese, and the question is, how can we be inseparable from God in this digital world? How can we be inseparable from God in this digital world?
Right. Okay. It's quite easy now. Inseparable from God. Even human are more connected, you know. So because we know God through energies, as we said. Article, we know through his operations. Through energies can be again subdivided. If we are not connected to things, you might lose that divinity within ourselves. If you don't connect to God, if you don't remain connected to human beings, if you don't stay connected to the church, you might lose it. So in some way, in this fast modern world where we have so many communication means, we definitely can use all these blessings for our connection with God. We can use that. I was just a joke to share. One of my parishioner was telling me about the small child, 6-year-old child. This child had to come to church. Okay, there are 50 people who can come to church every Sunday now. There's a limited number. This child was asking the mother and father that, is it so necessary that we should go to church today? All right, is that is it necessary that I should go to church today? And the mother asked, why you don't want to go to church? And then the little daughter says, isn't Achan coming online today? Okay, isn't Achan coming online? Is it necessary that I should go physically? Achan coming online. So online has made us a little more connected, probably. It has its own better ways and means of getting connected to God and ultimately to church and to Christian faith. So we have even our conversation today. See where I'm placed. Okay, I'm sitting here in Ireland, in Dublin, and I'm speaking to people, my friends in Delhi. So it's kind of a connectivity that you can still keep. You can watch, you can pray, even if you're not able to go physically to a place.
Thank you, Acha. Thank you, Annie ma'am, for that question. And I think we can all connect with that when we say that when we are exposed to so many new digital things around us, it's our choice. How do we make use of it? Like, how do we utilize it to be more connected to God? So very rightly said. I think we have one more question on our YouTube channel. It's from Mr. Matthew T. Kurian. It says at page 25, Paulos Tirmeni proposition for discussion under 6th point. Like there's one line over there, which he is asking about specifically. Sometimes elements of the Christian tradition are better maintained in other traditions like Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, liberalism, Marxism, etc. Christians have to learn from these. Can you just elaborate the above context?
Right. I can see that here on page number 25, point C in this article. Tirmeni writes, the Christian tradition offers us the way shown by the Son of God himself, but there are other ways of being related to the Son of God incarnate. The Christian tradition itself is only imperfectly reflected and maintained in all existing Christian traditions. Then he moves on to this sentence that you just read, the other religions. Definitely, it's self-explanatory actually. It's kind of but I can understand what the audience wants to know is, should we, does it mean that I have to comply with other religions? No, it is not complying or converting yourself into other religions, but it is rather a very profound kind of appreciation of other religions that Tirmeni is talking about. Where we narrated in the other part, Tirmeni says, I am convinced of these reasons. Okay, inner reasons we are no, I am convinced that it is an initiation into a religion where it knows the heart. Okay, heart of knowing God. So it's a kind of appreciation that Tirmeni is requesting all of us to do, and he's convinced about it when he's writing. We know from his dialogues, even in Delhi. People growing up in Delhi still know. I remember Sijochan also might recollect. I don't know who. We were 2 or 3 people from our either Sunday school days or MGOCSM days. We went to a ecumenical forum, and we were sitting there. because I'm just talking about Tirumeni's importance of much religious. We were talking to this person and he asked, where are you from? We said we're from the Orthodox Church of India, and they couldn't make it out which church it was. And suddenly one of the person said, oh, are you from the Church of Paulos Mar Gregorios? Okay. He asked us, are you from the Church of Paulos Mar Gregorios, Tirumeni? That's the profound philosophy that he has. So accepting the religion, other religions, and goodness of it comes with experience that Tirumeni had. And it is said in Indian tradition also that ekam satta, okay, there is only one truth, but the ways are different, okay. There may be different ways that you take. Some way might be a little difficult, not so easy way, but there is only one way, okay. So ekam satta, there is only one truth, one way. There are different, one place, truth, and there are different ways to reach it. And the acceptance, commonality. Goodness, Christianity, nannagalunda. That accept we should be able to. How and why? I've not yet completely realized. I'm still on the pilgrimage. So it's better to keep quiet. As I said, many teachers and many sages say that it is better to keep quiet. You cannot comprehend, you cannot speak more. You will be in the vortex. You'll end up in the vortex.
Thank you, Acha, for explaining it so well. And I also thank Mr. Matthew Stikuri for the question that he has put up. Now we have our very own Vice President of MGOCSM Delhi Diocese, Reverend Father Cherin Joseph, and Achan will be putting forward a question.
Thank you, Febha. Since Anish Achan, when he was speaking, I was literally understanding each and every word that he was putting up. At one point, he said, and he read from the text of this article, that Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios Tirumeni knows the church, or knows the heart of this redeemed humanity. He says that my initiation into a community which knows the heart of this redeemed humanity. And Anish Achan just put up, I think Matthew Tigurian also wanted to, understand this. And Achan again answered using this text, knows the heart of this redeemed humanity. So he meant the church which he was into, that is the Orthodox Church. So Achan, can you just throw light on this fact that, as like in today's world, many youngsters who wants to understand or who wants to know church, when they come into the church, how they can relate themselves to this truth, the church that knows the redeemed humanity and seeks to live by that knowledge. This is there through the sacraments, because we have very profound theologies and philosophies. But when a normal person comes to the church, he doesn't look or he doesn't learn these theologies, but rather he actually celebrates his life through the sacraments. So can you just throw light on this fact, connecting with Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios Tirumeni's ideas on God and man?
Achan, are we looking at the interreligious perspective?
No, Achan, just the sacramental importance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I'm speaking in a conversation with Sijo Achan around them, again, blessed memory, our Pilexus Tirumeni comes into our mind, both of us. So, because when we were young MGOCSM fellows, I remember Tirumeni used to say this phrase. It's an old English phrase. It says, "You can take a horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink." Okay, it's kind of a taunt that Tirumeni used to say, probably, but he used to remind us either you can take to the horse to the water, you can take, but the horse has to taste it sometime. You have to taste it, you have to understand it. But if you keep yourself aloof from all of these facts, all of these things, for me, I'm speaking to an audience in Delhi, where I grew up. So I can clearly see my background and the way the influences that I had in my life. If I was never willing to taste it, where I was never willing to know about it, I would have never had this chance of knowing the heart of of this redeemed humanity, where my community or I'm initiated into that community. This initiation, probably in our terms, in our Christian world, or for the Indian Orthodox people, comes through compulsion, probably. Okay, compulsion. we are pulled into the church, isn't it? I doubt that my Sunday school headmaster uncle all might be listening to this. They know we were woken up from our beds, pulled out, parents, papa and mummy, okay, it is not an automatic kind of a thing, a genuine acceptance or it, but I was initiated into it. Initiation is not always a willing kind of a thing. It's a kind of initiation. You take things. It's not always, but the introduction or after the initiation, the onus is on us. It is on us to drink from the great waters that we have. Once you start tasting it, once you start understanding it, it's such a great thing. You quench your thirst in that. You keep on drinking from it. There's still more to learn from things. When you read, when I'm given an exercise to read this, when I go through this article, I'm getting a lot of things, a lot of information. So if I keep away from reading it, and I accuse the church and say, oh, when did Triveni speak about, did one of our bishop say about interreligious dialogue? Does Trivenis have conviction on all of these things? Have they ever spoken on all of these things? Because it's of our illiteracy, karma. It's because of our illiteracy. Okay, we're still in the darkness. So it is our efforts that we ultimately has to come in. Somebody might introduce you once in a while. A priest might ask you, invite you, come down, children, okay? Come down, young friends, we'll talk, we'll sit together, we'll pray. But you have to accept that invitation, okay? Indian embassy had recently invited a church for a meeting. I was supposed to go there, but because it was a day when I had to worship and do the Qurbana, I couldn't go. So our invitation, I cannot make out what was there kept for me in that context. So to accept the invitation is very important in our lives. Young friends, definitely you have to accept the call, accept the invitation. Taste it, just go and sense it, then only you will understand what it is. There is a lot more to understand. Okay, otherwise we remain within as a frog in the well. All right, so the well would be our world. Now we're going to look around and say, oh, this is the world, Delhi is the world, right? Let's see the world and then talk. So I would leave on that.
Thank you, Acha. And I think you're rightly saying that awareness is very important. Getting any kind of knowledge is like a candle which dispels the darkness of ignorance. So it's very important to have that knowledge and be open to receive knowledge. Great. So we have one last question, Acha. We've taken up a lot of your time, and I am really thankful to the audience that they are putting up so many questions. This question is also from the audience. We have a question from Mr. Melvin Monichin, who says, good evening, Acha. Good to see you after a long time. My question is, how would you encourage younger generation to come to church in this digital world?
What I do is the church as a whole, what it has to do is different. Okay, I am not a spokesperson for the church. I was supposed to speak about the article also. So now we are going out of syllabus with these questions. Now, what I do is definitely within the context that I am dealing with, within the place where I live now or interact. It might not be same for Sijavachan or somebody else or one of the lay leaders. For our context, relating to people is more important. All right. When I speak to young fellows, I have to be young at heart. Although I have gray hairs now, I should be young. I should be relating in my mind to young fellows, their lifestyles, how they relate. When I see youngsters here, I talk to them about soccer also. Okay, I ask them about the recent match. Manchester United are each other. Although I'm not very good at it, I have to relate, right? Everything has to be related. When you say in the Bible, when you read, God was there in the Garden of Eden, it relates to humanity. In that sense, it makes some kind of effect to your life. If we speak of God who was somewhere there, if we say of God, if we know of a God whom we don't know really, so it's kind of a relation that you have to build up. Youngsters, how can we do? Definitely every person, one of us have to be apostle. Each one of us has to be an apostle. Okay, we are all sent out. It's not just an action or a Tirumeni or a diocesan, a representative who does. We all can in our own little ways. If I'm not wrong, that question is from a doctor from the diocese, from the name, I think. Even at his workplace, he can do. He must be doing, and we all should be doing. We all, through our life, as Tirumeni, remember that verse, Tirumeni, page number 24, he writes about this same interreligious thing. He says, imparted to all by life, love, and word. Okay, Vajanam Gonda, life with your life, okay, Jeevitham, and Sneham, love from love. So these three aspects have to probably not exclusive and conclusive, but it's kind of three aspects that Tirumeni highlights. With our life, love, and word, we can explain and inspire youngsters to the church or the younger generations. Their world is different. I mean, for a young person, the world is different. For Anish, who was born in 80s, world is different. Okay, Sijo Achan, who is little more younger than me, my world might be a little different. It has to be related to everybody. Okay, Christ was same for a teenager. Okay, he was a young man. Okay, you read in the Bible about this young man called Jesus. Okay, so you can relate to that person on the cross or through the judgment when he was being judged. He was a prisoner. He was a person who was being crucified. So people who are in turmoil, who are in pain, can relate to him, isn't it? So he is everybody for everyone, everything for everybody. So in that way, you can probably. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Acha, and thank you, Mr. Melvin Monachin, for your question. And I am really thankful to you, Acha, that even though we put you on the spot and asked questions out of the syllabus, you've still answered them really well and given insight to all our viewers as well as our panelists. As we are coming to the conclusion of our session, I am thankful to you, Acha, for being extremely patient and answering all the queries that have been sent your way. And every article that we're taking, as I've already mentioned in the previous sessions also, only helps us to come closer to the faith that we have. So these study sessions are really, really helpful for us to come closer to the Orthodox faith. And they shouldn't be lost in time. They should definitely hold much more importance, even in today's time, in the lives of youngsters. And I'm also thankful to all the panelists who took out their valuable time. 1 hour is a lot in today's busy schedule. You all took your time and sat throughout the entire session and put up really valuable questions. And also our YouTube viewers who have may have read the article along with us and really put forward their questions also. So we are really thankful. And I urge you to put in your comments for the next theme. If you have anything in your mind, you can put that in the comment box for today's session. And I hope you all had a good time watching the session, and I hope you all have a good night. Thank you.